For over a century, the name Murdaugh held an unshakable grip on the region. Judges, lawyers, prosecutors, kings of their own corner of the South. But on a quiet June evening in 2021, that dynasty came crashing down with the thunder of two fatal gunshots. Victims? A mother and son. The suspect? The patriarch of the very family they belonged to. And the motive? That depends on which version of the story you believe. What began as a simple double homicide would unravel into one of the most scandalous, convoluted, and sinister tales the American South has ever known. Fraud, addiction, death, cover-ups, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. This is the story of the Murdaugh family murders. And nothing in this story is what it seems.
To understand the tragedy, you must first understand the kingdom. The Murdaugh family wasn't just a name. In Hampton County, South Carolina, they were the law. Since 1920, for over 85 years, 3 generations of Murdaughs served as solicitors, what the state calls prosecutors, for the 14th Judicial Circuit. That meant every criminal case, every major investigation, every ruling of consequence passed through their hands. But their reach didn't stop at the courthouse. The Murdaughs owned a powerful law firm, Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Ellsroth, and Dietrich, known locally as PMPED. With deep ties to law enforcement, government, and the judiciary, they were both admired and feared. At the heart of this dynasty was Alex Murdaugh, a tall, ginger-haired attorney, son of the last great solicitor, Randolph Murdaugh III. By all accounts, Alex was charming, intelligent, and deeply connected. But beneath the polished surface was a man nursing demons of greed, addiction, and desperation. His wife, Maggie Murdaugh, was the matriarch. Described by friends as warm and sociable, she was deeply loyal to her children, especially her youngest son, Paul Murdaugh. Paul, just 22, was the wild one, reckless, entitled, but charismatic in the way only the son of power can be. And it was Paul who set the fuse that would blow the whole family apart. In February 2019, Paul was at the center of a deadly bloating accident. Late at night, after a night of partying, Paul, allegedly intoxicated, crashed his family's boat into a bridge piling. One passenger, 19-year-old Mallory Beach, was thrown into the dark waters. Her body wouldn't be found for over a week. The community grieved. But what they noticed even more was how quickly the investigation seemed to go quiet. Paul was charged with 3 felonies, but he was never jailed. He continued to attend parties, post on Snapchat, drink openly, and all the while, Maggie and Alex stood firmly by his side. The cracks in the facade were beginning to show. Lawsuits were stacking, investigators were circling, and the once feared Murdaugh family was beginning to look vulnerable. No one knew it yet, but the real storm was still coming.
June 7, 2021. The Murdaugh family estate, nicknamed Moselle, stretched across 1,770 acres of rural South Carolina countryside. It was a sprawling property with horse stables, fields, and a private dog kennel. That night, Alex called 911 just after 10 p.m. "My wife and son have been shot. Please hurry." deputies arrived to a grisly scene. Near the dog kennels, Paul's body lay slumped, shot twice, once through the chest and once through the back of the head with a shotgun. Just a few feet away, Maggie was found face down, shot multiple times with a different weapon, a semi-automatic rifle. The killer had used 2 guns. There were no signs of forced entry, no shell casings in the main house, no defensive wounds. Alex told deputies he'd been visiting his mother, who had late-stage dementia, at the time of the murders. When he returned, he said he found them like this: dead, alone, in the dark. The community was stunned. The powerful Murdaugh family, victims of a brutal double murder? But as news cameras swarmed and tributes poured in, something strange began to surface: a silence. Alex wasn't begging for justice. He wasn't crying on TV. He wasn't giving emotional interviews. In fact, he seemed oddly composed. Theories began to swirl. Was it retaliation for the boat crash? A message sent to silence the family? Or was something far more sinister at play? Whatever it was, the sheriff's department said little, and for weeks, no arrests were made, no suspects named. But behind closed doors, investigators were quietly digging into Alex's life, and what they found was a house of cards ready to collapse.
By the fall of 2021, suspicion was building, but not just around the murders. New threads began to pull at the tightly wound history of the Murdaughs, threads that revealed more bodies, more cover-ups, and more questions. The first, Gloria Satterfield, the longtime housekeeper for the Murdaugh family. She'd worked in their home for over 2 decades, almost like a member of the family. In 2018, she allegedly tripped on the front steps of Moselle and died from her injuries. Her death was ruled an accident, but now investigators were asking, why was there no autopsy? And why did Alex Murdaugh, Gloria's employer, push her sons to sue him, claiming they'd receive a large settlement? The truth? Alex collected over $4 million in insurance payouts. Gloria's sons never saw a dime. Then came another bombshell. Stephen Smith, a 19-year-old nursing student, was found dead on a rural road in Hampton County in 2015. At the time, it was ruled a hit and run, but Stephen's injuries told a different story. His body bore signs of a brutal beating, not an accident. His death had long been whispered about in town. Some said he was in a secret relationship with one of the Murdaugh boys. Others claimed the case was buried to protect the family name. In the wake of Maggie and Paul's murders, authorities suddenly reopened Stephen's case. Was it a coincidence or part of a pattern? And then, the most shocking twist of all. On September 4th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh himself was shot on the side of a rural highway. He claimed a stranger pulled over, offered help with a flat tire, and then opened fire. But within days, the story unraveled. Alex admitted the truth. He'd hired a distant cousin and ex-client, Curtis Eddie Smith, to shoot him so that his surviving son, Buster, could collect a $10 million life insurance payout. It wasn't a random act of violence. It was a staged suicide. The motive? The walls were closing in, the truth was catching up, and Alex was unraveling.
With the staged suicide exposed, Alex Murdaugh was arrested, not for murder, but for insurance fraud, conspiracy, and drug crimes. But the most damning evidence was still to come. Remember the video? Paul's Snapchat recorded just minutes before his death. Forensic analysis confirmed 3 voices: Paul, Maggie, and Alex. That destroyed Alex's timeline, his claim that he wasn't there, his alibi. Then came the ballistics. Shell casings found near Maggie's body matched ammunition from guns owned by the Murdaughs. A rifle matching the caliber was missing, but family weapons were known to vanish or be swapped over the years. Alex's cell phone records were suspicious too. After the murders, his phone showed nearly no movement for an extended time before suddenly recording a flurry of calls, as if staged to appear concerned. More disturbingly, he called Maggie's phone after she was already dead. Calls prosecutors say were meant to create a false timeline. And behind it all, the money trail. Alex had allegedly stolen over $8 million from clients, colleagues, and his own law firm. He wrote fake checks, set up shell accounts, and used the funds to support an alleged opioid addiction, one he later described as decades-long. Prosecutors now had a narrative. When the fraud was about to be exposed, Alex murdered Maggie and Paul to buy himself time, create chaos, and gain sympathy. It was cold, calculated, and completely shocking. In July 2022, over a year after the murders, Alex Murdaugh was indicted for the killings of his wife and son, and the trial would soon become one of the most watched in modern history.
January 23, 2023. Walterboro, South Carolina. A sleepy town turned into a media circus. Alex Murdaugh, wearing a blue blazer and trembling hands, stood before a jury of his peers, charged with the unthinkable, murdering his own wife and son. The prosecution laid out their case piece by piece. They played the kennel video, showed the phone records, traced the weapons, followed the money. And the motive? Desperation. A man on the verge of financial and personal ruin. A man willing to kill to protect his secrets. But the defense had a story of their own. They painted Alex as a grieving father, a loving husband. They pointed to a lack of direct forensic evidence. No blood on his clothing, no murder weapon recovered, no eyewitnesses. They claimed the investigation had tunnel vision, that police ignored other possible suspects, that Alex was being railroaded because of who he was. Then, in a move no one expected, Alex took the stand. For 2 days he testified. He admitted to years of financial crimes, to lying, to being at the kennels that night, but leaving before the murders occurred. He cried, broke down, told the jury he loved his family, that he would never, could never, hurt them. But would the jury believe him?
The South has long been a place of contradictions, grandeur and grit, beauty and blood. And in Hampton County, the Murdaugh story will echo through time. A century of dominance, a web of secrets, a family torn apart by its own name. Maggie Murdaugh, Paul Murdaugh, Gloria Satterfield, Stephen Smith, Mallory Beach. Their stories are now threads in a darker tapestry, one woven with power, silence, and the cost of legacy. In the end, the House of Murdaugh didn't fall in one blow. It collapsed under the weight of its own lies. And in the swamps of the South Carolina Low Country, justice may have come. But the ghosts remain.